Okay, well, today we thought we'd talk about solar panels and how we charge our batteries. So we decided to fit some solar panels to the boat, and I suppose we ought to take you along the pontoon and show you the profile. Let's go for a wander along the pontoon. Follow me. Okay, so here we are. We're going to have a look at the profile of the boat here now. So we've got a solar panel on the side deck at the moment. We've had to remove it because we're lifting the engine in and out, and it was in the way for that. But we've got two of those solar panels, and it's hard to see the second one, which is now catching lots of sun and charging our batteries. So we wanted to fit them in a place that wasn't inconvenient. We didn't want it too high. We didn't want it hanging off the stern of the boat on some massive arch. And so I came up with a plan that really over where the spray hood goes. Now we've obviously taken the spray hood off because in some up and coming videos I'm going to show you about building a new spray hood. We make a new one, but the spray hood is a place where we don't walk, and the bit in front of the spray hood right up to the mast is a place where we don't walk. So we decided that's where we'd fit the solar panel. So we're going to take you for another little wander along the pontoon. We're going to go up the ramp and look down on the boat, and you'll have some idea of what's happening. So let's just cruise down here. It's a beautiful sunny day here in Plymouth. The decks were covered in ice this morning. It was freezing. Luckily the central heating was working on the boat. So this is our favourite pizza bar that's been taken over by a new company that don't do the same sort of pizzas. Really sad. And they did the best cider there too. Right, here we go. So just poking out under the boom you can see a solar panel, and then you can see an empty frame where the second one goes. And so that doesn't interfere with the boom, it doesn't interfere with our sailing, it's not a place where we walk. And if you're going to have fixed panels that are flat, well, I figured that was the best place to have them. We've now found there are a lot of advantages with it. So we'll go on board and we'll run through how we built this frame and what we've done with it and why. Okay, so here we are on board now. So this is just a stainless steel tubular frame, and all I did was make a tubular frame that the panels drop into. It's a rectangular frame with a rail down the middle, and the panels drop right into them. Has 4 legs, and I'll show you in a minute. We've got some cross bracing that makes it stiffer so it doesn't wobble at all. But while I was manufacturing it, I suddenly thought, you know, this is coming quite far out. It's pretty much out level with the edge of the cabin down here, and it could end up making the side decks narrow, and down at this end it does narrow your access down the side deck. But a little idea occurred to me as I was building it, and I put this drop piece in here and a second rail, because obviously the solar panel is fixed in here and you can't hold this rail, but you now have a handrail that you can put your hand around all along coming up the side deck. And it's actually much nicer to walk along the side deck than it used to be, because you used to have to crouch down and grab a rail low down, but now it's at walking height, and if it's at all rough weather you've got this handrail, this lovely handrail which takes you all the way, and there's another handrail across the back, and you've got good handholds all the way back into the cockpit, which is so nice. I've never had that. So it's done several jobs, this. And then of course you'll see in a minute, underneath the solar panel that we've left on is a stowage for all of our boat hooks, dinghy oars, all sorts of things. So we've created some extra storage space. We've got a nice handrail that goes up the side deck, which makes it much safer going up the side deck. And from the end of the panel you can reach the shroud, so you've always got hold of something. And oh, guess what? We've got lots of watts of solar coming in, which is brilliant. So we're pretty chuffed with them so far. It's been good. So I'm going to get Amandine, who's hanging onto the camera there, I'm going to get her to hop on board and we'll show you a few more of the details. So having made this rectangular frame that the solar panel sits in, I've got some tabs here and we've just got some high density foam, and the panel sits on those, so it just drops straight in. The next thing was to so here is our tabs, high density foam, how to fasten the solar panel down, and I came up with a scheme which involves no screws or nuts and bolts. So what I did was I made some Z section stainless steel. So this is just literally in a fairly heavy duty piece of stainless steel in a Z, and in one of the legs I put some high density foam. And we'll go around the other side and show you how this Z section works. So here we are. So all we've got to do is we slot this Z section, it goes in here like that, and the bit with the high density foam is now pressing down on the panel. Well, obviously if you try and lift the panel up, this will just fold out. So these are packers for when you're fitting plastic windows, and if we drop these packers just into here now this can't tip back, and so the panel can't lift up. So we can just pull the packers out, and then this just tips out, we can lift the panel out, so it's really easy. The other thing that I've discovered is that when the boat's sitting like this in high winds, the panels don't actually lift up. I thought the wind would get under them and try and lift them, but panels are pressed downwards in high winds. And what's happening is when we've got the spray hood up, as the wind comes through this gap underneath the solar panel and over the top of the spray hood, it's quite a narrow gap between the panel and the spray hood, and it's creating a pressure differential just like an upside down aeroplane wing, and it's in fact sucking the panels down, which is a real bonus. So all in all, we're pretty pleased. So we'll take a scoot round to the cockpit now, and I'll show you the underneath storage. Here we are underneath this one solar panel, and as you can see that we've got dinghy oars here, and then some tubes that hold boat hooks and the like. So it's made some extra storage space, which is really nice, and I'm going to add one or two more bits. Anything that's long and thin is going to get stored under there. It'll be really good. So we'll come back into the cockpit here, and I'll show you this handrail. We're kind of trying this out at the moment, but this handrail here, this is just done in plastic tube, and it seems really nice to hold. You can get your hand around it. It's really nice to grip. I do have a piece of stainless steel tube I can put across there if I need to, but it's just much softer if you bang your head on it. So we've got this piece of tube here that's sitting on the stainless steel tube at the back of the panel, and this piece of tube is just for the boom to sit on. So if anything goes wrong and the topping lift breaks or anything happens, and we've got a boom strut kicker, fiberglass boom strut kicker that keeps the boom up there, but if anything goes wrong with that, then the boom will just drop down and it'll drop onto this tube, and it won't hit the panel.
On John's head.
Or on my head. So the other day we were doing a job, and we were lifting the engine out, and the boom dropped quite sharply, and it hit on my head, and because the boom
hard.
yeah, it's fine, no sense no feeling. I suspect because the boom is a hollow tube, it just made it sort of echoed inside the tube. Amandine said it was a massive bang. I did have quite a lump, but hey, it's fine. So now they're all telling me I've got to wear a hard hat while I'm wandering around the deck. I'm not allowed on deck without my builder's hat on. But so this is where all our solar energy comes in, and this is how we've built the frame. So we'll just look at how the frame's fastened down now. The rear uprights aren't upright, they're sloping forwards. The front ones are upright, so we're starting to create a triangle, and that made it stiff. And then we've got this crossbar, you can see this diagonal crossbar, which is here, and we've got another one to put in. We've taken that out when we took the panel off, but we'll put that back in. So we've got two diagonal crossbars, we've got the rear bars sloping inwards, so there's quite a bit of triangulation going on, and makes it really rigid. So now we've got to look at the pads that it's sitting on. So I had to make a wedge-shaped pad. So all I did was I made four sides with no top and no bottom out of thin plywood, and this size, and then I popped it on the deck, put this in place, drew a line round so I got the correct angle. When I took the little plywood thing home, I then put a floor in that sat at this angle, and turned it up and filled it full of resin and cast a foot, so that it was exactly flat on the bottom. It was the right angle for this, and then brought it down to the boat and just drilled and fastened everything together. Now it looks a bit scrappy. I've coated it in a coat of UV resistant silicone, just to keep the sun off the blocks. So that's how I managed to achieve the blocks at that angle. We've come inside now, and the cabling for the solar panels comes into the boat, and what you're looking at now is the solar controllers on one side and fuses and switches on the other. So the cabling comes in and it goes through a switch, and then onto the solar charge controllers, which are these here. We have one controller for each panel, and the reason for that is we could put them through both panels through one controller, but apparently if one of the panels is in shade and the other one's in the sun, putting them both through the same controller really reduces the output you get from the panels and the amount of charge you get in your batteries. So we've got a bit of redundancy with this system really anyway now. If one of the charge controllers dies, well, we can put both panels into one of them, and if one of the panels dies, well, it's not sucking the other one down. So obviously only one of these is turned on at the moment because we've only got one panel up, but we can turn them off individually. And these are EP-Ever Tracer charge controllers. They seem to do a really good job. They did a brilliant job charging the lead acid batteries, and you can set them up for lithium as well. And beyond these, you'll see this gadget here, this purple job here. Well, that's the DC to DC charger. So our alternator, our engine, is fed into that, and then that in turn feeds the batteries, and it stops the batteries sucking our alternator too hard. So moving along now, we've got our battery switches. We can isolate the solar panels and the batteries. These are fuses. Pretty simple system. You have on these solar charge controllers, so you've got a solar panel positive and negative in, battery positive and negative out, and then we have this wire here joins up to an LCD screen that we have at the nav station, and we're able to tell from the nav station what's going on, and I'll show you that in a little bit. But while I'm jammed up the quarter berth here, I'm just going to do all of this at once rather than having to get out and get back in, because it's quite tight here. So moving further down, this is our inverter. So we have a large G&L inverter, and the general consensus is that these G&L inverters are pretty bulletproof. So this converts our 12 volts into 240 volts, and it's not the most efficient way of making electric, but there aren't many 12 volt induction plates for cooking on. They're all 240, and I dare say if somebody produced a 12 one, it would cost £1 million, because they only sell a few of them. So just buy a cheap mass-produced induction hob, and we run it through this inverter. So we do have tucked away back here, let me get a lamp around here and you'll be able to see it. Here we go. So we do have a smaller inverter, and if we're running something just like a laptop or something small, well, we send the power through that one, and I'll show you how we've got this hooked up. If you're an electrician, be prepared to be horrified probably, but it works for us and it's safe. Let me show you how we work. So here we have a standard UK 3-pin plug. I think you all have different names for it in different countries, all the terminals, but we call it live, neutral and earth. and this cable feeds our consumer unit where all the fuses are. So there's no electricity coming down here, it goes on from this inverter to our consumer unit. So we plug this in and I'll show you where it comes out. Okay, so here's our consumer unit, and this is where it all happens down here. So the cable I just showed you with the plug on it that comes out of our inverter, we can plug it into the big inverter or the small inverter, and that sends power to this socket. And if we want to run off our boat system, we've called it solar here, but if we want to run off the boat system, then we plug this consumer unit into this socket, which is really simple. So let me just run this past you again because it's not immediately obvious. So consumer unit with all the RCD switches in it, and I've got a double socket down below, and I have the choice of plugging the consumer unit into either shore power if we're moored up and we've got shore power, or into solar, which is the boat 12-volt system running through the inverter. So this one that says shore, that goes, we've got that onto the dock at the moment, and I'm going to plug this one into here, and now our consumer unit is connected to the dock electricity, and electric goes into here, and then it's distributed around the boat from here. So our socket here that's going to run our kettle, that goes into the consumer unit, down to this socket, and we plug it into whichever side we want, whether we want to use the boat electrics or the shore electrics. So this means that you can't plug in both at once. We can't plug in solar and shore, the boat electrics and the shore electrics. We can't plug them, have them both running at once by mistake, because you have to select where this is plugged in. Complicated, I know, but it works really well. When you get your head around it, it's actually dead simple. Okay, so over here at the nav station, this is just really a repeater of the screen for the solar charge controllers, and we've got one screen, and then we have a changeover switch that we can swap to read either solar charge controller, so we can see how many amps are going in. We've got 0.1 of an amp going in, but then our batteries are at 13.5 volts, and for lead acid that's pretty good. So we don't need to be sucking in any more than that. I dare say if we turn some loads on and start pulling, then the solar panel will be chucking a bit more in, but hey, that's fine for the minute. So yeah, we can, in a glance, we can look and we can see what's going on from the nav station, which is quite nice. So that kind of covers how the solar system and our basic electrics work. We've got two solar panels. We don't have room for much more. I mean, I would love to have more solar, but we just don't have the room for it, and I'm not putting a great big arch. You know, we like our sailing a lot, and yeah, we like to sail and we like to cross oceans and go places, and if you're actually going to do a lot of sailing, I'm not sure that big solar arch is the answer. It affects the handling of the boat so much. I dare say if we weighed 14 or 15 tons, it wouldn't make so much difference, but we don't. You know, we're a race boat essentially, converted to cruise, and it's a fairly lightweight, and it would just affect the handling horribly, so I don't think it's going to happen here, but we'll see.